Why is your business called Soul on Fire?
It's a good question because before it wasn't called Soul on Fire. I was mainly known for Yoga for the Peaceful and just my name, Monica Mesa Dasi. But what happened about 4 years ago, some listeners may know, is that my oldest son, Shane, died from suicide.
Yes, we're.
And obviously that was, a devastating blow that turned my life and my other son's lives upside down.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I did when that happened was, I wanted to find everything that I could possibly find about Shane and all the places that I maybe hadn't looked. And I went onto his Facebook page and I looked at every single post that he had ever made.
Right.
And he had all these very strong messages and quotes that were very inspirational. And one of them was this one: the greatest weapon on earth is the human soul on fire.
Welcome to the Koolers Lifestyle podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kuehlhorn, and I'm excited to have you join me as I interview community members and business leaders from the communities in which I live, work, and serve through my business Kooler Garage Doors. We're going to bring you highlights on characters in our communities. Why? Because community matters, and I want to know more about who is behind our business and leadership in order to understand and support the community fabric that our relationships make up. And collectively, we can build stronger communities that support our lifestyles, our youth, and our health.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Koolers Lifestyle podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kuehlhorn. Today, I am honored, privileged to be hanging out with Monica Mesa Dasi. She's a Tantra teacher, yogini, intuitive author, mother of 3 sons, founder of the Yoga for the Peaceful studio in Crested Butte, Colorado, which has been an anchor in the community for over a decade. She's a mentor, channeler, plant medicine woman, and an activist that leads the Soul on Fire movement. Monica, welcome.
Thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you so much.
Very grateful to be here.
Yes. I feel very present and grounded, and your presence is absolutely beautiful.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you.
Yes. I would love to start the conversation with the question I ask of everybody. Where did you grow up, Monica?
Yeah, thank you. I was born and raised in Santa Monica, California.
Awesome.
And interesting that my name is Monica from Santa Monica.
How long did you live there for?
I lived there for 13 years.
Okay.
And then my parents moved us to what I call the waveless shores of Florida.
Wow. West Coast to East Coast.
Yeah, exactly.
What was that like for you? That was like in middle school time frame?
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
it was a little bit traumatic to go from the seaside of California to that coast of Florida, but it's all right. I learned how to windsurf and sail and dive and do all the other things that I could do until I could pick up surfing again in my 30s.
Right on.
So, yeah.
Very cool. I attempted to live out in Santa Monica once, and it lasted maybe just a couple of months, and it wasn't for Matt. But so from Santa Monica to Florida, give us the concise or the shorter story, the summation of coming from Florida into the Gunnison Valley.
Well, yeah, I went to Florida State University. And then I moved to Miami, Florida, and I was a high school teacher. I taught health education in the inner city schools of Miami.
Wow.
Yeah, that was intense. And then I got married and got pregnant with my son, Shane. And as soon as soon as he was born, really, we decided to move. We wanted to raise him outside of the big city. And so we moved to Vermont.
Oh my goodness.
And I lived there for 3 years, which is where my dad lived. And it's a very
Okay.
wholesome place to raise children the
Yeah.
way we wanted to, kind of Nature Valley granola type of place to raise your kids. And then Sky was born, my second son, in Vermont. And because I come from the West Coast, I never quite felt super comfortable on the East Coast, and the weather was tough for me. I love the sun, coming from California and Florida.
Yeah.
And anyways, we decided to move out west, where we had come to Crested Butte for our honeymoon, actually, back in the 90s, the early 90s, and had fallen in love with it. And we had bought some property in Crested Butte, and couldn't figure out a way to live here and get jobs and all that kind of stuff. But at one point in Vermont, I was like, you know what? Let's just go. Let's just go and make it work. And we did. And that was it.
That's
Crested
awesome.
Butte has always been such a home for me. And I just always felt embraced by these mountains and these people, this simple lifestyle, and being
Yeah.
able to surf on snow. And it's
Yeah. Sunshine.
Hey everybody, this is Luke from Kooler Garage Doors. Just want to take a quick second to talk about our sponsor, Sommar Garage Door Openers. In our opinion, Sommars are the highest quality product on the market today. We recommend them for all of our residential garage door installs because of the variety of features they include, such as Wi-Fi connectivity and safety features such as a fixed chain, which moves along a secure rail to ensure your garage door opens quietly and safely. Click on the link in the description to learn more about Sommar Garage Door Openers.
You landed more or less full time in middle-ish 90s. Is that what I gathered?
Yeah, let's see. Actually, to be exact, 1997.
Right on. Right on.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's when I came on to the
And then-
Valleys in November
Really?
97. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Ronan was born, my third son,
Yes.
here. So one
Yes.
born in Miami, one in Vermont, and one in Crested Butte.
Oh, that's amazing. When did yoga find you? Or when did you find it?
Oh, that's a good question. It's kind of fun. I, believe it or not, was a competitive bodybuilder in my youth and in college.
Right on.
Won a contest or two,
Nice.
and had a very bad injury from lifting weights and slipped a
Oh.
disc.
Lord.
And at that point, I was a real fitness freak, and bodybuilding and running and cycling and all these things, but it flattened me. Like I could do nothing anymore.
Yeah.
And interesting story is I was going out with a professional baseball player at that time who always used to tell me, you should do yoga. And I was like, yeah, right. Like yoga's, I'm a bodybuilder, I'm not going to do yoga. And when this happened, because, they had yoga teachers come at spring training and all that, professional baseball players have all those
Yes.
perks. But when this happened to this injury that I had, I was like, I could do hardly anything. I could hardly move. I could hardly walk. Here I was in Florida State University, walking around campus with a cane. And so I was like, all right, okay, show me that yoga stuff. And he showed me a couple of things, down dog, child's pose, some basics. And it really helped me. And I didn't have health insurance then. I didn't have a chiropractor. I didn't have anything. I just had a little bit of yoga. Then I started taking classes, and it healed me, basically. And that started my yoga journey. And from there, over time,
Yeah.
I just kind of lost the desire, the draw for just the physical aspect of fitness stopped really fulfilling me. And I really found inside yoga how it brought me inwards and connected me to myself and to God and to, the universal spirit. And it has led me on a deep and profound inward journey that is with me to this day.
Yes. Is there a specific point in time or an experience where through the practice of yoga, you opened up to that, could be Kundalini energy, the energetics of the body, spirit? Is there anything, or is that just an evolution over time kind of thing?
Well, yeah, another great question. There was definitely a moment when I was doing teacher trainings with Shiva Ray way back then. There was a book that she was on our book list. It's called the Tantric. Let me think. What was that book called? Tantra: The Path to Ecstasy. And there was a part in the book, it was by Gwerg Forstein. There was a part in the book where it talked about having a guru and the importance of having a guru to help guide your way. And I really stopped at that chapter and I was like, interesting. I'd never thought about that before. And I always thought, the guru is inside, which it is. Gurus lead you inside. So I stopped reading for a while and I went into introspection about this concept of having a guru. And I've like to have a guru, to not have a guru, the guru on the outside, the guru on the inside, whatever, all these questions. And I finally came to the realization that for me personally, it was correct. Like it was right. And I did want a guru. And then at that point I was like, okay, now what? Okay, now I know I want a guru, but then what? And like guru.com, like how do you find your guru? And so I was like, well, I got a bunch of kids. I can't really go to India. I'll just kind of do it later when they graduate from high school or something. And I just let it go. But I think because I had that desire and I had put it out there, especially in that spirit of surrender, my guru came to me. That's a whole nother story that would take the rest of this podcast. But my first guru, Neem Karoli Baba, came to me in a very mystic way. It was very, very clear. And at that moment, I felt it. I felt that, like you said, this is Kundalini, this inner pulse that happened that was just like, bam. And, my guru, his teaching is love everyone, serve everyone, remember God. That's it. That was his number one teaching. And I have always been a spiritual person. And I came from a mystic Catholic family on both sides. And so that concept of devotion was very much a part of who I was. And so his teaching was very profound for me.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Thank you for sharing. There are a lot of things that we can talk about. We could probably carve out the next 2 to 3 hours. But I'm going to focus us into a couple of places, if that's all right, Monica. I want to inquire about your business a little bit, and then I want to go into your book. And I think this might go into your son's. Why is your business called Soul on Fire?
It's a good question because before it wasn't called Soul on Fire. I was mainly known for Yoga for the Peaceful and just my name, Monica Mesa Dasi. But what happened about 4 years ago, some listeners may know, is that my oldest son, Shane, died from suicide. And obviously that was, a devastating blow that turned my life and my other son's lives upside down.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I did when that happened was, I wanted to find everything that I could possibly find about Shane and all the places that I maybe hadn't looked. And I went onto his Facebook page and I looked at every single post that he had ever made.
Sure.
And he had all these like very strong messages and quotes that were very inspirational. And one of them was this one: the greatest weapon on earth is the human soul on fire. And it really made me realize the importance of humans' awakening process and my role in helping people to find that awakening inside. And so that was when I started calling everything that I do. I have online courses, groups for women and things like that, retreats, everything. So everything is now Soul on Fire.
I love that. I love that. Sure. You brought up Shane, and this is the is Shane the focus of the book? That
Yes,
he's working on and are bringing out. And
his messages.
so this is your channeling.
Yes. Basically, what happened was after he left the planet, I started getting messages from him.
Sure.
And at first I didn't really know what was going on. And I had gotten messages in the past from people that had crossed over, but this was very profound and obvious. I had kind of dismissed some of those things. But when this happened, it was very, very clear and obvious. And he started writing me back. I started a journal where I would write Dear Shane and just tell him how I was feeling. And then one day when I finished my entry, I started writing. It's Dear Mama. And like my hand just started writing, and I didn't really know what was happening. And I just at first was questioning like what's going on here, and then something inside me was like, just don't even think about it. Just let your hand write. And so I did. And it just wrote. And then when I was finished, I read it. And it was like a message to him from me. And I was just like, wow. And then I just sort of let it flow and without questioning. And that began this sort of relationship in spirit where he would talk to me and give me messages that has become over 10 journals full of messages. And then one day I got the clear message from him that I was to share the messages. So I created this book, and there's 3 parts of the book. And the most sacred part though are his messages that I consider like an oracle part of the book, where you just kind of can open up the book and to any page and see what his message for the day is. That's how it came to be.
Does he have one in particular message, or are there multiple that it's hard to summarize into one?
There's a lot of messages for sure. But I do think that the primary focus of his message sort of interweaved with my own messages that I have shared with the world, and then became even more passionate about sharing, mostly about self-love.
Mm-hmm.
And the message that has had the most impact for me that I got one time when I was in my other guru's ashram in India, Amma. She's known as the hugging saint. And I was sitting in my room in deep meditation, and suddenly I got this message from Shane. And he said, because I was just like, I was in supreme union and with God, and this deep, deep devotion with God, and this beautiful love relationship. And suddenly I get this message from him, and he's saying, so, hey, Mom, can you love yourself as much as you love God? And I was like, holy shit. I just was like, oh my God. It really, I was like, that's a lot. I love God a lot. And so it was like, yeah, can you love yourself that much? And it was just like, whoa, 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 whoa. It was just like his way of saying, Mom, you gotta love yourself. Gotta love yourself. And God wants you to love yourself that much. That was the most profound message.
Do you have any thoughts on why it's difficult for some humans to love themselves that much or at all?
Yeah, absolutely.
This kind of tripped into some mental health, right?
Exactly, which is why I think it was Shane's message, because he struggled with that in his life, with the challenges that he had and the family stuff that he dealt with, and his own personal life traumas. I think that it was really hard for him to let go of the shame and the things that made him not feel good enough, right, and all that. And so I think that the ups and downs of life and the things that happen, the mistakes that we make, the things people do and say, how we're treated, all those things, our addictions and personal habits, and the challenges that we deal with in life. I think it can make it really hard to love, accept, respect, forgive ourselves. And so I think, his message to me that he wanted me to share, and that I now want to share with the world, is like, no matter what has happened to you, no matter what you've done, no matter what mistakes you've made, no matter what anyone has said or done to you, you got to keep tapping into that deep source of love inside, that you are worthy, that you are still loved. And
yes, it seems to be part of the human condition to have insecurity, to have self-value judgments, and certainly our filters, our conditioning, our perspectives layer in meaning to certain experiences. We hear something from somebody, we make a meaning of it. We do something, we make a meaning of it, and that can empower or disempower. And I want to take a quick side tangent for some of the listeners. I'm wondering, or I'm curious, if the idea of channeling is a little woo. Right. And I want to put a little bit of practicality into this, because I think it's real. I'm not a channeler myself. However, I've read some different readings of channeled works. And I'm wondering, Monica, if you can explain a little bit of practicality. And this is messages coming through you, to you. And how do you, I don't even know what the question is, but I want to anchor this a little bit for some of the listeners. And then we're going to spin it back to this mental health and self-love concept, because I think there's a tie-in here. So in channeling work, what does that really mean to you? What are you picking up? Is it energy? Is it spirit? Is it something else? And how do you know it's Shane coming through or another entity versus just an
Mhm.
inside voice?
Yeah. You know, I'm a big believer in the power of faith and of deep knowing and believing in something that the eyes can't see or that the mind can't pick apart and make practical sense of. I think so much of life is about that, like how do those rainbow colored fish under the sea get like that? How does a orchid bloom like that? How do we get these special people dropped in our lives right when we needed them? How do the stars twinkle? All these things. It's a matter of faith. And there's so many questions that can't be answered. And so I think that channeling is one of those things that you have to drop into your heart and your soul and your spirit and just like believe. I believe that everyone has inner gifts, and they're not really something that is supported. And like a lot of times children will say something that they heard or they saw, and the parents will be like, oh, you just had a dream, or these kind of things. And I just believe in that. I believe in that. I believe in magic. I believe in the God force that is inside of everything and everyone. It could even be, quantum physics is even part of this. Even the scientists that don't believe in God anymore or that supreme force, it's like now that even that can be explained.
Right.
So let's see. What was the original question? Just to
Well, I think you started alluding to it because I was trying to see if we could get a little bit of grounded perspective to the idea of channeling. And I'm just curious, potentially some listeners are very familiar and potentially some are not. And maybe we've already lost them, or maybe you're just like, oh, this is woo, and we're gonna hang in here. If you're still listening, I mean, I think what I heard explained here is that, well, let me ask you this kind of secondary type of question, Monica. Are we spiritual beings in experiencing a human experience, or are we physical humans? And I mean, you've already alluded to like the magic and how we can almost prove magic with science these days.
Yeah. And, I just want to make it clear also that this is my belief. And I really honor and appreciate everybody's belief. It's so important in life, in this world, and all the complexities of different belief systems, is that I'm not saying it's true. This is fact. I'm saying this is true for me. This is my experience.
Yeah.
And however people get inspiration and connect with their truth is what's important, to tap into however that happens for each human being. And this is just how it happens for me. And I'm a Virgo. Virgos are very practical, earthy people. And so for me, we could be very analytical and be like, come on, Monica, And so for me, it was difficult. But when something happens to you in a way that's so clear, you just don't question it. You just go with it. And again, you just have faith. And so these are the way the messages came to me. And this is the way I connect with the God force and with my son. And I do believe that, again, my belief is that there is really no death. There is only transformation. And we go from one realm to the next realm. And some spirits stay up there quiet, in the quantum space. And some spirits talk to you. And that's what happened to me.
Yeah. Got it. Got it. The point around self-valuing oneself self-love, and kind of just hitting mental health in the bullseye, I think, is kind of the self-love. You mentioned 3 gems of healing. Is this practical around self-love? Do the gems drive to that value?
Yes, I think so. What I have created and called the 3 gems of healing are self-love, the power of practice, and purpose-based living or mission-based living. And so self-love is the first one, because I feel like when we have that anchor of self-love, that everything that we do is a benefit to all beings. I have this one affirmation that I also love to share. It's when you love yourself, you love the world. Because when we love ourselves, we show up in the world in a much greater way. We want to serve. We want to be our best. We want to help people. We want to be a beneficial presence on the planet. And so, that's why I feel like self-love is so important. And how do we get to self-love with all the things that have happened to us? Well, that's where number 2 comes in, the power of practice. The power of daily practice is something, again, individual to each person. But I feel like some kind of spiritually based practice daily helps us deal with the ups and downs of practice, of life, I should say. And, those things that have worked for me that I'm so blessed and honored to be able to share with the world in my work is meditation, prayer, yoga, qigong, pranayama, breath work, reading sacred texts, these things that can help us start our day with presence, with purpose, and with consciousness. And so I have a course I'd love to offer for free to anyone who is here called The Power of Practice. It's an online 7-week course, and we can leave a link for them as well. And it's where I share some of my the things that have worked for me. I am particularly passionate about daily practice, because what happened to me, and it's how that particular course happened, is that when Shane passed on, obviously I was brought to my knees. I mean, I didn't even know I would survive it. And a very strange thing happened. The very next day, after getting through the night, however I got through the night, I literally rolled out of bed, hysterical, and got to my mat and my cushion and started practicing yoga and meditation and breath work and mantra and these things. And it was completely non-cognitive. I didn't try, I didn't plan, it just happened. And I think that what happened was, after decades of daily practice, day after day, no matter what, Christmas, New Year's, birthdays, visitors in the house, sickness, injuries, whatever, anger, all the things, no matter what happened, I did my practice. And it literally became a part of me, so that when the shit hit the fan and something tragic happened that I didn't think I would survive, my practice was there. And I think it saved my life.
Correct.
And so there's something about that daily practice that I think comes back to you when you need it the most. So that's the power of practice. And then there's the third one, which is purpose-based living. And purpose-based living is to have a mission, to have a cause, to have a purpose that's greater than making money and working for whatever the goals of our personal life are. I feel that if somebody has a purpose, again, when things get hard, that purpose can pull you through, whatever that cause may be. There's so many: human trafficking, climate change, mental health, come on, we could just go on. And to be a part of something like that can give us purpose, I think is really helpful. So that's how they all three kind of tie in together.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love all three. Certainly the purpose-based living. I mean, I think a lot of folks recognize that money cannot buy time, nor can buy health. And it's purpose that can really bring forth really valuing time and your health in a lot of ways. I want to ask a question around the power of practice, and then I'm going to open up to you to share where we can learn more, find about your book, and just stay in touch with you, Monica. And I'm asking personally. So in the power of practice, I just heard you recognize the value of daily practice. And I dabbled in this. And I've experimented and played around with a daily practice. And I know, even if it's 12 minutes, 5 minutes, if I lock in my mornings, man, that makes an amazing difference. And I still struggle with keeping consistency to it.
For
Do you have a practical piece for myself and for anybody listening that might have this same issue, where I see value in daily practice? When I lock in and do it consistently, I can actually feel empowered and I can feel the benefits of it. And yet I still don't have a locked in type of daily practice. How can a person anchor that? Where might they start?
Thank you, Matt. I'm so glad you asked that question, and I just want to tell you that you answered it. And it's a message that all my students and mentees and everybody knows about me, is that I always say, even if it's 11 minutes long, that counts. That makes a difference. And so I think that is probably number one, is to take the pressure off and just begin with 11 minutes, 7 minutes, whatever that may be. And that may grow into more. And a little more practically about that I suggest is to make it right away. So, for example, you wake up, your eyes awaken. I like to put my hands on my heart and say a prayer, and I usually do 3 gratitudes and 3 desires. When I'm a little low in my self-love, I'll even add 3 things I'm proud of about myself. That's the first thing I do. Interweaved with that, if we're so blessed to have a beloved by our side, it's also very special to put your hand on each other's heart and to do perhaps the same thing. I'm so grateful for you for and just to make that connection with our partners. And from there, I get up after that. It's only after that. And then you go to I'm being really practical here. You go pee, you drink a glass of water, splash your face, brush your teeth. whatever you need to do. And then from that place, you go directly to your mat or your cushion or your altar, whatever that is. No opening the phone. I'm sorry to say this, but no coffee. I know that if we haven't lost listeners, now we're probably going to lose them. No going into the kitchen, nothing else. You stay very focused, because once we go to the kitchen, like I have water in my bathroom. I don't even go to the kitchen. Once you go to the kitchen, then something happens and something distracts us. Coffee, the reason why I say coffee is because once you have coffee, it, obviously those effects of coffee start to move your mind more quickly. And so that's something that I suggest is to go right to it before anything else. Another thing practically is my friends that say, yeah, but I have kids. Well, I had kids too. I was a single mom of 3 kids. And how did I do it then? Well, I got up earlier than they got. Most of my life, I've gotten up in the dark to do my practice. And so obviously children always come first. Partners always come first. Making love comes first. All the love always comes first is what I say. But right after that, you do your practice.
Yeah, love it.
I mean, the only other practical thing I could say that I think that really helps is having a spot. Like I have an altar, and the altar could be as simple or as complex as you like. But even if it's just like one little candle or a picture of Jesus or the Buddha or a flower or something like that, just one little thing where this is where I sit. This is where I roll out my mat. Because what happens is if you miss your practice one day, you walk by that spot and it pulls you back again and again. You see it day after day. Oh my God, and one day you're going to be like, it's just going to pull you right back.
Right
so those
on.
are my practical tips.
That's great. Monica, as we wrap up, where can listeners track you down, learn from you, grab a book?
Oh, thank you so much. Well, the most exciting thing is certainly this book, With You Forever. I'll tell you the full title, With You Forever, Surviving My Son's Suicide, an oracle of love, hope, and channeled messages. And the book not only has messages from Shane, it has my own messages. And then the third part, which I think is very important, is about suicide prevention and how we can prevent suicide and support those who have been through it. People like me that are called suicide survivors. And I think that part is really important that everybody can benefit from. And so my digital launch is happening on Shane's birthday, which is April 6th.
Awesome.
And it's only 99 cents, so everybody can get it. And I'll be all over my social media. It's Monica Mesa Dasi, whether it's Instagram or Facebook. My website's Monica Mesa Dasi. And so I'll be putting it everywhere so people can find that. And then 2 weeks later is the actual hard copy of the book launch, which I'm really excited about because it's a beautiful book and has the oracle part in it and everything that you can flip open to, and all the resources, including a resource for our community that's CB State of Mind.
Yes.
Which is a wonderful organization that supports mental health in our community and suicide prevention. And we have a special program starting up next month too, to bring awareness to the community. And so there's lots of information about that in there too. And so that's probably the best way. I'm very accessible. When people reach out to me, I always get back to them. I have online courses I do every year, retreats, teach at festivals, all those kind of things. So I have a newsletter I put out that I call a love letter. And so all that can be, these days it's so easy to find each other. So
yeah, I love that. We're going to include all those links in our show notes. So listeners, please track down Monica. She's easy to find. and learn more about her courses, her book, of course, and offerings. And I did hear you on the 7-week course. And so I'll follow up with you on making sure we've got the right link for that and listeners take advantage of that. Monica, I really appreciate your vulnerability, your willingness to share your message of love and self-love. I know there's a lot of work to do in the world, a lot of healing opportunities, and I'm excited to check out your book. And you know, I knew Shane. I know your boys a little bit, and I mean, like all young people, I just have an affinity, like a open heart, and yeah, I just feel that resonated. I think it's beautiful that this book is coming out, and I just want to thank you for our conversation today, and see if you have any closing thoughts.
Sure. Well, I want to thank you, Matt, for caring about our community, for caring about mental health, for caring about me enough to reach out to do this, and especially for caring about my sons. Just for the listeners to know, Matt was their boxing coach, and Sky and Shane. And interestingly enough, my littlest one back then was too young to take your classes, but he watched, and now he just recently won the state championship in Muay Thai boxing. So you have had an impact on my son's lives, and I believe a very strong impact on one of the most difficult times in Shane's life. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for being a purpose-based man in our community and in the world. And I believe that it has a very powerful impact and butterfly effect on the world. So thank you so much. And how I'd love to end is the way I end all things is if you and the listeners would like to place your hands on your heart. This is an affirmation that I put together that I wish for us all to share with all of our children and all of the world if it feels right to you. And so just take a moment to drop your mind into your heart, your heart into your mind, and repeat these words after me. I deeply and profoundly accept, respect, forgive, and love myself. And we'll do it 2 more times. I deeply and profoundly accept, respect, forgive, and love myself. No matter what has happened, what anyone has done, what challenges, I deeply and profoundly accept, respect, forgive, and love myself for the benefit of all beings. Because when you love yourself, the whole world wins.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to the Koolers Lifestyle podcast. We count on your subscriptions, your likes, your shares, and I encourage you to do that now. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe, lower right-hand button. If you're on audio, download this, share it, and we look forward to having you on the next one.